The apocalyptic scene unfolds like a nightmare made manifest, a tableau of destruction stretching as far as the eye can see. The ragged remnants of humanity's once proud fleet drift like broken toys amid a sea of debris and shattered dreams. Scorched hulls and venting atmosphere tell a tale of a desperate battle already lost. But through the ashes of near-certain defeat, a flicker of defiance yet endures. The UES Retribution plows through the carnage, its battered frame and scarred hull a testament to its indomitable spirit. Born in the shipyards of a distant Earth, this vessel was forged for one purpose alone: to stand against the darkness, no matter the cost. On the bridge, a figure stands resolute against the chaotic tableau of ruin. Captain Alara Vance, her uniform stained with the grime of battle, her eyes alight with the fire of the soul pushed to the brink. She turns to her crew, a ragtag assembly of the brave and the desperate, each face etched with the same grim determination that fuels her own. "This is it," she says, her voice cutting through the cacophony of warning klaxons and straining bulkheads. "This is where we make our stand. This is where we show these alien bastards what it means to be human." A cheer goes up from the assembled crew, a defiant roar that echoes through the embattled ship. They know the odds. They've seen the projections. The alien armada outnumbers them 100 to 1, their ships technologically superior in every way that matters. But they also know something the aliens never will: the indomitable human spirit, that ineffable quality that has propelled their species from the savannas of ancient Africa to the very stars themselves. In the CIC, a haggard tactical officer calls out the grim reality of their situation. "Captain, the Kinti battle fleet has broken through the Orion line. The 15th Expeditionary Force is in full retreat. Projections show total fleet annihilation in less than 4 hours." Alara nods, her jaw set in a grim line. She knows the numbers, knows the cold equations of war that spell out their doom in stark, unforgiving calculus. But she'll be damned if she'll let the Retribution go down without a fight. "Bring us about, bearing 175 Mark 20. Ready all forward batteries and load the missile bays. If we're going out, we're going out with a bang." The crew scrambles to their stations, a well-oiled machine even in the face of certain destruction. The Retribution's engines flare to life, the ship banking hard as it plunges headlong into the teeth of the alien advance. In the depths of the ship, a different sort of preparation unfolds. Marines strap on battle armor and ready their weapons. Engineers jury-rig final repairs and patch what systems they can. In the med bay, doctors and nurses brace for the inevitable flood of casualties. Each soul aboard the Retribution knows their duty, and each stands ready to fulfill it to the last. As the ship hurtles towards its destiny, Alara can't help but reflect on the road that led them here. The first contact gone wrong, the diplomatic overtures met with sudden, brutal aggression. The frantic evacuations, the desperate holding actions, the slow, inexorable retreat as world after world fell to the relentless alien advance. And through it all, the UES Retribution, fighting the long retreat, standing against the tide, a beacon of hope in an increasingly hopeless war. Now at the 11th hour, with humanity's back against the wall and nowhere left to run, the Retribution would make its final stand. Alara turns to the tactical display, watching the seething mass of enemy contacts grows larger by the second. She feels the eyes of her crew upon her, knows they're looking to her for guidance, for hope, for some shred of a chance at survival. She meets their gaze, unflinching, unyielding, a rock against the storm. "This is it," she repeats, her voice a clarion call against the darkness. "This is our moment. This is where we show the galaxy what humanity is made of. This is where we make them rue the day they ever dared to cross us." A roar of approval sweeps the bridge, a wave of defiance in the face of annihilation. The Retribution charges headlong into the jaws of death, guns blazing, engines screaming, a rallying cry given form and purpose. They know they may not survive the coming battle, but by all that's holy, They'll make damn sure the aliens never forget it. The stage is set, the battle lines drawn. The UES Retribution, the last best hope of humanity, hurtles towards its date with destiny. In the heart of every human aboard beats the same defiant refrain. Come on, you bastards. Come and get some. The Retribution surges forward, a blazing avatar of humanity's last defiance. Weapons primed and shields thrumming with barely contained energy, the mighty Warship plunges into the heart of the alien armada like an avenging angel of old. On the bridge, Captain Alara Vance orchestrates the chaos of battle with a maestro's touch. Her orders are crisp, precise, each one a key stroke in the symphony of destruction she conducts. The crew respond with the honed efficiency of those who have stared into the abyss and refuse to blink. Hard to port. Fire as she bears. Alara barks, her eyes never leaving the tactical display. The Retribution heels hard to the left, her main batteries erupting in a staccato burst of fury. A Kinti dreadnought, caught full broadside, crumples under the onslaught, its hull plating peeling away like the skin of a ripe fruit. But the aliens are quick to respond. A hail of return fire streaks towards the Retribution, a swarm of angry hornets seeking to bring down the beast that dares to defy them. The ship's shields flare and crackle under the assault, the deck shuddering beneath Alara's feet as the inertial dampeners struggle to compensate. Shields at 60%. The tactical officer shouts over the din. We can't take much more of this. Alara's response is cold, unflinching. Rear out power from all non-essential systems. Reinforce forward shields and keep firing. We're not done yet. Even as she speaks, the Retribution's guns roar to life once more. The ship weaves through the enemy fleet like a boxer in a prize fight, jabbing and weaving, always keeping the enemy off balance. Alara's tactical genius is on full display, her maneuvers as unconventional as they are effective. But the aliens press their attack with relentless determination. Wave after wave of fighters swarm the Retribution, peppering her shields with laser fire and missile salvos. Larger ships lumber into range, their massive particle beam cannons gouging deep wounds into the human ship's armored hide. In engineering, Chief Engineer Xander Voss orchestrates a desperate ballet of damage control and jury-rigged repairs. His team works feverishly to keep the ship's vital systems online, patching breaches and rerouting power even as the ship buckles and heaves around them. We're losing main power, Xander shouts into the comm, his voice barely audible over the scream of overstressed engines. The reactor can't take much more of this. On the bridge, Alara grits her teeth, her knuckles white on the arms of her command chair. She knows they're pushing the Retribution to her limits and beyond. But what choice do they have? Surrender? Retreat? There's nowhere left to run. Divert power from weapons to shields, she orders, a plan forming in her mind. Prepare for close quarters engagement. The crew exchange nervous glances, but follow her orders without question. They've followed Alara to hell and back a dozen times before. If she says this is the way, then this is the way. The Retribution charges headlong into the enemy formation, her shields glowing white-hot as they absorb the brunt of the aliens' fire. Closer and closer she comes, until the Kinti ships fill the view screens, their alien hulls bristling with weapons and malevolent intent. Ramming speed. Alara commands, her voice a throaty battle cry. All hands, brace for impact. The Retribution slams into the lead Kinti ship with all the subtlety of a sledgehammer. Shields flare and fail on both ships, hulls crumple and twist, atmospheres vent in angry geysers of debris and flame. The two behemoths tumble away, locked in a deadly embrace. Across the Retribution, damage reports flood in. Hull breaches on multiple decks, fires raging out of control, casualties mounting by the second. But even as her ship cries out in agony, Alara feels a surge of savage triumph. They hurt the alien bastards. They made them bleed. But the triumph is short-lived. Even as the crew scrambles to contain the damage, a new threat emerges. The tactical officer, his face ashen, turns to Alara with dread etched in every line of his face. "Captain," he says, his voice barely above a whisper, "we have borders." Alara feels a cold knot form in the pit of her stomach. Borders, the faceless, implacable enemy, now loosed within the very heart of her ship. She knows what they're capable of, has seen the aftermath of their handiwork on a dozen ravaged worlds. But she also knows something else. They're on her turf now, and if there's one thing Alara Vance knows how to do, it's fight. She stands from her chair, a warrior queen ready for battle. "All hands," she says, her voice ringing with steely resolve. "Prepared to repel borders. This is our ship, and we'll be damned if we let them take it without a fight." The crew roar their approval, a primal battle cry that echoes through the embattled ship. They know the odds, know the stakes, but they also know they're human, the indomitable spirit, the unconquerable soul. And they know one more thing. Come hell or high water, the Kinti will rue the day they set foot on the UES Retribution. The Retribution shudders under the onslaught, her decks awash with flame and debris. Bulkheads groan under the strain, the ship's very bones creaking in protest as she weathered the unrelenting storm of alien aggression. But for all the chaos without, it is the threat within that chills the blood of every human aboard. The Kinti borders swarm through the ship like a plague, a chittering tide of claws and fangs and merciless, alien eyes. They move with the fluidity of a single organism, a deadly swarm intent on one thing, and one thing alone, the utter subjugation of their prey. But the humans of the Retribution are far from helpless. Even as the alarm klaxons blare and the ship buckles around them, they rally to their captain's call. Marines, engineers, gunners, cooks, every able-bodied soul takes up arms, determined to defend their ship to the last. In the corridors and compartments of the Retribution, a desperate battle rages. The crash of gunfire mingles with the hiss of pressured doors and the feral snarls of the Kinti. Humans and aliens clash in a deadly dance, a whirling melee of blood and fire and desperate, primal fury. At the forefront of the battle stands Captain Alara Vance, a warrior goddess in the flesh. She wields her plasma rifle like an extension of her own body, every shot a kill, every movement a dance of lethal grace. Around her, her crew fight with equal parts desperation and determination, each one a hero in their own right. In engineering, Chief Xander Voss leads a desperate last stand. His team have erected barricades of debris and scrap, jury-rigged weapons emplacements that belch fire and death into the advancing horde. They fight with the fury of the damned, knowing that if engineering falls, the Retribution falls with it. In the medbay, Dr. Ilara San fights a battle of a different sort. Her sickbay overflows with the wounded and the dying, the air thick with the copper tang of blood and the moans of the injured. She and her team work feverishly to stem the tide, to snatch life from the jaws of death, even as the ship crumbles around them. On the bridge, the command crew wage a war of wits and will. They are the eyes and ears of the Retribution, the guiding hand that directs her fury. Even as the ship buckles and heaves under the assault, they maintain a cool, calculated precision, directing the battle with the skill of seasoned veterans. But for all their valor, for all their skill, the tide begins to turn against the humans. The Kinti are simply too many, their weapons too advanced, their fury too great. Deck by deck, compartment by compartment, the aliens push the humans back, an inexorable tide of fang and claw and merciless, predatory hunger. In the CIC, Alara watches the tactical display with a growing sense of despair. The Kinti have taken engineering, the medbay, the armory. Her ship is being carved up from the inside, her crew slaughtered like lambs to the slaughter. It's only a matter of time before. No, she slams a fist on the console, the pain a welcome jolt to her senses. They haven't lost yet. Not while a single human still draws breath. Not while the Retribution still flies. An idea forms in her mind, desperate and daring in equal measure. It's a gamble, a last throw of the dice. but it's all they have left. She opens a ship-wide channel, her voice ringing with a fierce, unyielding determination. All hands, this is the captain. Prepare for emergency vent of all decks. Repeat, prepare for emergency vent. Across the ship, eyes widen in shock, in fear, in grim understanding. To vent the ship's atmosphere, it's a death sentence for anyone caught unprotected, human and Xinti alike. But it's also their only chance. On my mark, Alara says, her hand hovering over the controls. 3, 2, 1, mark. Across the Retribution, bulkhead doors slam shut, pressure locks engage. And then, with a hiss of escaping air and a lurch that shakes the ship to its core, the venting begins. In the corridors and compartments where the fighting rages, a new horror unfolds. Xinti and humans alike are caught in the sudden depressurization, their bodies tumbling and twisting as the air is ripped from their lungs. Some manage to find pockets of safety, sealing themselves in pressure suits or emergency shelters. Others are not so lucky. It is a scene out of a nightmare, a hellscape of frozen blood and contorted, lifeless forms. But it is also a necessity, a desperate ploy to buy the Retribution precious time. Time to regroup. Time to plan. Time to strike back. On the bridge, Alara watches the readouts with a grim satisfaction. The venting has taken a heavy toll, both on her crew and on the enemy. But it has also bought them a reprieve, however brief. Now, it's up to them to make it count. She turns to her crew, her eyes alight with a fierce, unyielding determination. All right, people. We've bought ourselves a chance. Now let's make the most of it. The crew nod, their faces grim but resolute. They've been through hell and back, have seen horrors that will haunt their dreams for years to come. But they're still here, still fighting. And as long as even one of them still draws breath, the Xinti will know no peace. Alara turns back to the tactical display, her mind racing with possibilities. The Retribution is wounded, but she's not dead yet, and she still has a few tricks up her sleeve. It's time to show these alien bastards what happens when you corner a human. It's time to make them pay. The Retribution hangs in the void, a wounded beast licking its wounds. Her hull is pockmarked with the scars of battle, her decks eerily silent in the wake of the venting. But she is not defeated. Not yet. On the bridge, Captain Alara Vance surveys the damage reports with a critical eye. The venting bought them time, but at a heavy cost. Over half her crew are dead or injured. Key systems are offline or barely functioning. The Retribution is a shadow of her former self. But she still has fight left in her. Status report. Alara barks, her voice cutting through the tense silence of the bridge. Main power is offline, Chief Engineer Xander Voss reports, his face smudged with soot and grime. Shields are down to 12%. Weapons are at half capacity. Alara nods, her jaw set in a grim line. What about the Xinti? Sensors show their main fleet is regrouping. The tactical officer responds. But we have a more immediate problem. The boarders that survived the venting. They're massing outside the bridge. A chill runs down Alara's spine. The bridge. The heart and brain of the Retribution. If the Xinti take control here. All right, she says, her voice steady despite the fear churning in her gut. We make our stand here. Fortify the entrances. Set up kill zones. No one gets through those doors, you hear me? The crew rushes to obey, a flurry of desperate activity. They haul debris and furniture to create barricades, rig makeshift traps and choke points. Some take up positions behind the impromptu fortifications, weapons trained on the doors. Others hurry to seal off critical systems, to ensure the Xinti can't use the bridge controls against them. Through it all, Alara stands resolute, a pillar of strength and determination. She knows the odds are against them. Knows that, barring a miracle, these may well be the Retribution's final moments. But she'll be damned if she'll let the Xinti take her ship without a fight. The first assault comes without warning, a sudden explosion that rocks the bridge to its core. The doors buckle and deform, then burst inward in a hail of shrapnel and smoke. Through the gap pour the Ktinti, a tide of fang and claw and merciless, predatory fury. But the humans are ready for them. A wall of gunfire erupts from the barricades, a staccato roar of defiance and desperation. Ktinti fall in droves, their bodies piling up in the doorway. But more keep coming, scrambling over the fallen to hurl themselves at the human defenses. Alara is in the thick of it, her plasma rifle spitting death with every trigger pull. Around her, her crew fight with equal parts valor and despair, knowing that each Ktinti they fell may well be their last. But even as they fight, even as they pour their hearts and souls into this final desperate stand, Alara can feel the tide turning against them. The Ktinti are simply too many, their fury too great. They surge forward like an unstoppable tide, heedless of their own losses, driven by a single all-consuming purpose, the annihilation of their prey. One by one, the human defenses fall. Barricades are overrun, choke points breached. The bridge echoes with the snarls of the victorious Ktinti, the screams of the dying humans. And amidst it all, Alara fights on, a Valkyrie in the heart of the storm. She knows it's hopeless, knows that, any moment now, a claw will find her throat, a fang will tear out her heart. But she'll be damned if she'll go down quietly. She's just about to hurl herself at a particularly large Ktinti warrior when a sudden blinding light fills the bridge. A roar shakes the deck plates, a sound that drowns out even the cacophony of battle. For a moment, Alara thinks it's another attack, some new Ktinti weapon brought to bear. But then she sees the Ktinti themselves staggering, shielding their eyes, yowling in what almost sounds like fear. And then a voice crackles over the comm, a voice that sends a jolt of disbelieving hope through Alara's battered soul. UES Retribution. This is the UES Indomitable. Looks like you could use a hand. Reinforcements. Against all odds, against all hope, reinforcements have arrived. Alara almost laughs out loud, a sound that borders on the hysterical. She can scarcely believe it, can scarcely dare to hope. But as she watches the Ktinti fall back, as she sees the sleek silhouette of the Indomitable moving to flank the Retribution, she feels a fire rekindle in her heart. They're not done yet. The Retribution, her crew, humanity itself. They're bloodied, they're battered, but they're not broken. And now they have a chance. Alara turns to her crew, a fierce grin splitting her face. All right, people, you heard the Indomitable. Let's finish this. The crew roar their approval, their exhaustion and despair forgotten in the sudden rush of renewed hope. They surge forward, meeting the Ktinti head-on, driving them back with a ferocity born of desperation and the sudden, unshakable belief that victory may yet be within reach. And amidst the chaos, amidst the fire and blood and thunder, Alara feels a grim, savage joy rise within her. The Ktinti wanted a fight to the death. Well, they'd got one. The tide has turned, the balance shifted. With the arrival of the Indomitable, the Retribution crew fight with renewed vigor, a fire rekindled in their hearts. They surge forward, meeting the Ktinti head-on, determined to reclaim what is theirs. Leading the charge is Captain Alara Vance, a warrior reborn. She moves through the chaos of battle like a force of nature, plasma rifle blazing, eyes alight with a fierce, unyielding determination. Around her, her crew fight with equal parts valor and savagery, driven by a newfound hope, a belief that victory may yet be within reach. Slowly, painfully, they push the Ktinti back. Deck by deck, compartment by compartment, they reclaim their ship, leaving a trail of fallen foes in their wake. The Ktinti fight with the desperation of cornered beasts, but they are no match for the human spirit, for the indomitable will that drives the Retribution crew. In engineering, Chief Xander Voss and his team wage a war of a different sort. They work feverishly to bring the ship's systems back online, to coax life back into the battered and broken machinery. It's a race against time, a desperate gamble to give the Retribution the edge she needs to turn the tide of battle. On the bridge, the command crew coordinate the attack with cool, calculated precision. They are the guiding hand behind the Retribution's fury, the strategic mind that directs her every move. Under their guidance, the ship becomes an extension of the crew's will, a weapon honed to a razor's edge. And in the heart of it all stands Alara, a beacon of hope and defiance. She is everywhere at once, rallying her troops, leading the charge, a living embodiment of the human spirit. Her presence inspires her crew to heights of courage and sacrifice, to push beyond their limits and snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. But even as they fight, even as they claw their way back from the brink, Alara knows their victory is far from assured. The Ktinti are a formidable foe, their technology advanced, their numbers vast. Even with the indomitable at their side, the odds are stacked against the human forces. They need an edge, a final, desperate ploy to turn the tide of war. And as Alara surveys the battlefield, as she takes in the battered but unbroken forms of her crew, an idea begins to take shape in her mind. Zorax's ship, the alien vessel that started it all, the one that brought warning of the Ktinti invasion. It lies in the Retribution's hangar bay, an enigma waiting to be unlocked. If they could just get it operational, if they could harness its advanced technology, it could be the key to everything. Alara turns to her crew, her eyes alight with a desperate, reckless hope. "Listen up," she barks, her voice cutting through the din of battle. "I have a plan, but it's going to take everything we've got, and then some." The crew exchange glances, some wary, some intrigued. They followed Alara to hell and back, have trusted her with their lives and their souls. If she says this is the way, then this is the way. "Chief Voss," Alara snaps, turning to the engineer. "I need you and your team to get to the hangar bay. Find Zorax's ship and get it operational. Whatever it takes." Voss nods, his face set in grim determination. "Aye, Captain. We'll get it done. The rest of you," Alara continues, her gaze sweeping the assembled crew. "We buy them time. We hold the line, no matter the cost. We show these Ktinti bastards what it means to fight the human race." A roar of approval meets her words, a battle cry that echoes through the battered halls of the Retribution. They know the stakes, know the odds, but they also know what they're fighting for. Survival, freedom, the right to exist in a universe that would see them extinguished. And as long as a single one of them still draws breath, they will not go gentle into that good night. Alara nods, pride and determination welling in her chest. "All right, people, you have your orders. Let's get to work." As the crew rush to their stations, as the battle is joined anew, Alara takes a moment to herself, a quiet instant amidst the chaos. She knows the road ahead will be hard, knows that many of the faces around her may not live to see its end. But she also knows something else, a truth that burns in her heart like an unquenchable flame. They are human. They are the Retribution. And they will not go down without a fight. With a final, stealing breath, Alara turns to face the fray once more. "All right, you Ktinti bastards," she murmurs, a grim smile playing about her lips. Round 2. And with that, she charges headlong into the battle, plasma rifle blazing, a rallying cry on her lips and a fire in her heart. The Retribution surges forward to meet her, a wounded beast ready for one final, glorious hunt. The fight is far from over. But as long as Alara Vance and her crew still draw breath, as long as the human spirit still burns bright, there is hope. And sometimes, hope is the most powerful weapon of all. In the depths of the Retribution, a desperate gamble unfolds. Chief Engineer Xander Voss and his team have fought their way to the hangar bay, battling through Ktinti ambushes and the ship's own failing systems. Their objective, Zorax's enigmatic vessel, a potential key to turning the tide of battle. But as they approach the alien craft, as they take in its strange, unsettling lines, a sense of unease settles over the group. There's something not right about this ship, something that sets the teeth on edge, and the nerves to jangling. Voss shakes off the feeling, his jaw set in grim determination. They have a job to do, and by God, they're going to do it. With a final, stealing breath, he leads his team into the vessel, into the unknown. On the bridge, Alara Vance surveys the tactical display with a growing sense of dread. The Khinti have regrouped, their forces massing for another assault. And this time, they've brought reinforcements. A massive Khinti dreadnought looms on the scanners, a behemoth of alien metal and malevolent purpose. It dwarfs the Retribution and the Indomitable combined, a floating fortress bristling with enough firepower to reduce both ships to molten slag. And at its helm, the most notorious warlord in the Khinti Empire, Karzak the Butcher, scourge of 100 worlds, a being whose name is spoken only in fearful whispers. Alara feels a chill run down her spine, a primal, instinctive terror that she ruthlessly suppresses. She knows the stories, has heard the tales of Karzak's cruelty, his ruthless efficiency. If he's here, then the Khinti are truly committed to the Retribution's destruction. But she'll be damned if she'll give them the satisfaction. All hands, battle stations, she barks, her voice ringing with authority. Prepare to engage the enemy. The crew scramble to obey, a flurry of desperate activity. They know the odds, know the stakes, but they also know their duty, and they will see it through to the end. The Khinti dreadnought opens fire, a barrage of plasma and particle beams that rends the void asunder. The Retribution and the Indomitable return fire, their weapons blazing defiantly, but it's like throwing pebbles at a mountain. The dreadnought's shields barely flicker, its armor scarcely scorched. And then, it unleashes its full might. A storm of missiles streaks from the dreadnought's launch bays, a swarm of death and destruction that fills the screens with stark, blinding light. The Indomitable takes the brunt of the assault, its shields flaring, buckling, then failing altogether. Explosions blossom along its hull, great gouts of flame and debris that mark the deaths of countless souls. On the Retribution's bridge, Alara watches in horror as their ally is pounded into submission, as the Indomitable begins to come apart at the seams. She knows they're next, knows that without intervention, the Retribution will share the same fate. But what can they do? What hope do they have against such overwhelming force? As if in answer, the comm crackles to life, a voice cutting through the static and the despair. Captain. It's Voss, his tone equal parts triumph and trepidation. We've got Zorax's ship online, and you're not going to believe what we found. Alara's heart leaps, a sudden, desperate hope welling in her chest. What is it, Chief? What have you got? A weapon, Captain. Voss's voice is hushed, almost reverent. A weapon like nothing I've ever seen. If we can figure out how to use it. He trails off, the implication clear. A chance. A slender, desperate chance. But a chance nonetheless. Alara nods, her mind racing. Do it, Chief. Whatever it takes. We'll buy you the time. She turns to her crew, her eyes alight with a fierce, unyielding determination. All right, people. This is it. Our final stand. We hold the line, no matter the cost. We give Voss and his team the time they need. She takes a deep breath, her gaze locking with each of her officers in turn. It has been an honor serving with you all. No matter what happens, I want you to know that. A moment of silence, a final, poignant stillness. Then, to your stations. Alara barks, her voice ringing with command. Let's show these Khinti what the Retribution can do. The crew roar their approval, a battle cry that echoes through the ship, a defiant pledge in the face of annihilation. They know the odds, know the likely outcome, but they are the Retribution. They are human, and they will not go quietly into the night. With a final, resolute nod, Alara turns to face the viewing screen, to face the looming specter of the Khinti dreadnought. Her heart hammers in her chest, adrenaline surging through her veins. This is it. The moment of truth, the final, pivotal play in a game where the stakes couldn't be higher. But as she stares into the face of oblivion, as she prepares to make her last, defiant stand, Alara feels a strange, serene calm settle over her. They are the retribution. They are human. And no matter what happens, they will face their fate head-on, with courage in their hearts and fire in their souls. The Kinti dreadnought looms before them, a titan poised to strike. Alara takes a deep breath, her hand hovering over the weapons console. "All right, you bastards," she murmurs, a grim, defiant smile playing about her lips. "Let's dance." And with that, the final battle is joined, a titanic clash of wills and weapons, a struggle that will echo through the ages. The retribution charges forward, guns blazing, a lion roaring its final glorious challenge. Come what may, they will not be found wanting. Chaos reigns supreme as the retribution and the Kinti dreadnought engage in a brutal dance of destruction. Weapons fire crisscrosses the void, missiles and beams rending armor and shattering shields. The retribution, outgunned and outmatched, weaves desperately through the barrage, its own weapons hammering at the dreadnought's defenses with grim determination. On the bridge, Captain Alara Vance orchestrates the mayhem with steely resolve. Her orders are crisp, precise, guiding her ship and crew through the maelstrom with a deft, unwavering hand. But beneath her composed exterior, a desperate hope burns, a fervent prayer that Chief Voss and his team can unlock the secrets of Zorax's ship in time. In the alien vessel's shadowed depths, Voss and his engineers work feverishly, their hands flying over strange controls and enigmatic interfaces. The ship thrums with power, ancient systems stirring to life beneath their touch. But the workings of the craft are alien, inscrutable, and time is running out. Back in the void, the retribution shudders under the dreadnought's onslaught, its shields buckling, its armor cracking. Consoles explode in showers of sparks, crew members hurled like ragdolls by the impacts. But they fight on with grim determination, refusing to yield, refusing to surrender. Suddenly, a massive explosion rocks the ship, throwing Alara from her chair. Klaxons blare, damage reports flooding in. The dreadnought has scored a critical hit, breaching the Retribution's reactor core. Meltdown is imminent. In that moment, Alara knows their time has run out. Without Zorax's weapon, without some miracle, the Retribution is doomed. But even as despair threatens to engulf her, the calm crackles to life. "Captain," it's Voss, his voice strained, triumphant. "We've got it. The weapon, it's online." Alara's heart soars, a sudden, fierce hope surging through her. "Fire," she commands, her voice ringing through the chaos. "Give them everything we've got." In the depths of Zorax's ship, Voss inputs the final command, his hand slamming down on the activation switch. For a moment, nothing happens. Then, with a surge of eldritch energy, the weapon comes to life. A beam of scintillating light erupts from the alien craft, a lance of pure, unbridled power that pierces the void like a spear through the heart. It strikes the Kinti dreadnought head-on, the behemoth's shields flaring, buckling, then shattering like glass. For a moment, the dreadnought hangs suspended, a titan stricken. Then, with a blinding flash, it detonates, a miniature sun blooming in the void. The shockwave hits the Retribution like a hammer blow, sending the ship tumbling, but Alara hardly feels it. Her eyes are locked on the screens, on the expanding cloud of debris that marks the dreadnought's grave. They did it. Against all odds, against all hope, they actually did it. A cheer goes up from the crew, a ragged, exhausted sound that nonetheless rings with triumph. They have faced the impossible and emerged victorious, have stared into the jaws of oblivion, and spat defiance. But even as they celebrate, even as they embrace their comrades and weep tears of joy, a grim reality sets in. The Retribution is a ruin, its systems critical, its reactor on the verge of meltdown. They may have won the battle, but the ship is lost. Alara takes a deep breath, a strange, serene calm settling over her. She knows what must be done, knows the price that must be paid. Quietly, she begins to give the orders, her voice steady, resolute. Evacuation protocols are initiated, escape pods prepped and loaded. The crew, battered but unbowed, carry out their final duties with a solemn, steadfast professionalism. They have given their all, have fought with valor and distinction. Now, it is time to let go. As the last of the crew departs, as the final escape pod jettisons into the void, Alara stands alone on the bridge, her hand resting gently on the captain's chair. The Retribution groans and shudders around her, a once proud warrior facing its final moments. But Alara feels no fear, no regret. She has done her duty, has led her crew to victory against impossible odds. And now she will see it through to the end. With a final, loving caress, she settles into the chair, her eyes fixed on the stars beyond the viewing screen. The Retribution, faithful to the last, cradles her in its embrace, ready to carry her into legend. As the reactor reaches critical, as the ship begins to tear itself apart, Alara closes her eyes, a small, serene smile playing about her lips. She has lived as a warrior, has fought with honor and courage. And now she will face the undiscovered country with the same unwavering spirit. The Retribution, a legend given form, a beacon of hope in a galaxy beset by darkness, erupts in a final, glorious blaze of light. And amidst the maelstrom, a whisper, an oath, a promise. For we are human. We are the Retribution. And we will never surrender. The stars outside the viewport flicker, their distant light shimmering through the chaos of the battlefield. In the silence following the explosion, the void seems to stretch endlessly, as if holding its breath. Yet in that eerie stillness, something stirs, an unexpected presence. The comms crackle again, this time with an unfamiliar voice, but deep resonant growl laced with a strange, haunting cadence. Captain Alara Vance, you have earned your victory, but you have not yet seen the end. Alara's eyes snap open, her pulse quickening, but her resolve is unshaken. Her fingers hover over the console, ready to issue a command or respond with a final word of defiance. But before she can act, the voice continues, its tone cold, and yet filled with a strange respect. You may think your battle is over, but the Centi are not your true enemies. There are far greater forces lurking in the darkness. You have seen only the beginning. Alara's grip tightens on the chair, her instincts screaming, but she holds her ground. Who are you? She demands, her voice steady, unflinching. The voice responds with a cryptic laugh, the sound reverberating in the chamber. The ones who have watched you, studied your kind, since the beginning. Your species is strong, capable of unimaginable feats. But there is a cost. You are not yet ready. Before Alara can reply, the screens flicker and distort. Data streams flash across the display too quickly for her to process. But one thing is clear. The stars are no longer still. The distant suns are in motion, the very fabric of space itself bending and twisting. We will meet again, Captain. The voice intones, its final words a chilling echo in her ears. And next time, there will be no escape. With that, the comms fall silent, and the stars return to their distant, indifferent state. But in the depths of Alara's heart, a spark of doubt flickers. A new threat, something far more insidious, is out there, waiting for humanity. She stands, her gaze fixed on the endless expanse of space. The journey is far from over. The war is just beginning. But in that moment, she feels something else. A surge of pride, a fierce determination. She knows the path ahead will be fraught with dangers, but humanity has faced impossible odds before, and we will do so again. The Retribution may be gone, but its legacy will live on in the hearts of those who survived. The fight is not over. For we are human, and we will always rise.